Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Coffee and Conversation. I am Ria. I am your host right here on Yachting International Radio. I would like to welcome a very special guest, Sergio from Save the Med. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much, Ria.
Thank you so much for coming on board here today. We're going to be talking a little bit about a topic that we hold very near and dear to our hearts here at Yachting International Radio. The fact that the planet is literally at war with itself, or humans, as it were. We have done such damage in a very short period of time, and we are all looking to find ways to reduce our impact on the planet. And you folks have an event coming up in the not too far future that will help people and educate people on exactly how to do that.
That's correct. Next 20th of November at 7 p.m., Save the Med Foundation has organized a very inspiring event together with Viveco to show and demonstrate people that there's another way of doing things and that it's not that complicated to reduce our plastic footprint in our homes. We as you were saying before, that the world is at war with itself or with humans. I don't like to see it that way. I like to see it in the way that we're part of the problem. It means that we're part of the solution, so each individual can do something in their own homes.
Well, and so you were telling me this woman, Bea Johnson, she is, the actual event is called Reduce Your Waste. And she has been living a 0% waste life since 2008.
Yes, that's what it seems. And she's one of the pioneers of the zero waste movement. And not only her and her family have been living a zero waste life for over 10 years now. So the amount of waste that they produce per year, I think it amounts, or plastic, let's say, amounts to like a jar of honey or something like that. So it's actually quite amazing. So it doesn't mean that we all have to be like her immediately. I'm sure it takes a process, but we can at least get some tips and tricks on how to start on that path.
Well, and that is pretty amazing, because I have two children, and I do my grocery shopping, every few days. And the amount of plastic that is on everything, I mean, it doesn't matter. You've got bananas wrapped in plastic, which is absolutely asinine as far as I'm concerned. But everything tends to be in plastic. So it does make it very, very difficult to go without, very little sort of waste on that end.
Yes, that's right. Listen, I don't have children myself, but I also consume quite a bit of plastic. It's very hard to get rid of it, and it takes certainly does take a little bit of commitment. But what people don't realize is that they cannot go from one extreme to the other in one day. You have to take baby steps. You have to start slowly. You have to start with easy things. So I don't know, maybe water bottles. Maybe you can go from small water bottles to bigger water bottles, and then to a filtration system, or start taking your own bags, and then you start looking for stores. So it's all, as I was saying before, it's all a process. So people don't need to feel overwhelmed by what it is, and you have to understand that it's going to take some time to adjust. But once that adjustment is made, it becomes part of your regular life, and it's fairly simple and achievable.
Well, the really exciting thing too is that you see a lot of eventers now. More and more people are actually putting their mind to solving this problem, and you're seeing people that are coming up with plastic alternatives, as it were, things that are biodegradable, things that do disappear. And as well, you see, different countries using, for example, I saw a post the other day, they're using banana leaves as packaging. So people are looking for alternatives and are inventing alternatives to the plastic.
Yes, and it's great that the movement is actually global, and it's cross-sectional. It touches everybody, so it's not only the rich people, or it's not only for certain political ideas, it's great that all these alternatives are sprouting everywhere and from every side. But we also need to be a little bit cautious on on that matter, because what's happening with plastics now is something that we actually didn't anticipate maybe 70 or 100 years ago. So we actually don't know what the consequences of these alternatives are going to be as well. So we also need to be a little bit careful. And I think that at the end of the day, what we need to focus is on our consumption patterns and ensuring that we, for example, don't use single-use products, regardless whether they're made out of plastic or different materials. And on a side note, the issue with bioplastics now is not as easy as it seems, because there's a lot of marketing rules and techniques that come into place that can be a little bit deceiving. But overall, it's a positive thing that we have all these alternatives coming up, and that people are more and more aware, and they're more willing to do things on their own accord.
Well, that's true. I mean, I think generally if we all make a change, even a small change, there is sort of a militant kind of aspect to things at certain points. And it's really nice to be able to, talk to someone like you that says, you know what, do what you can and do your best. And if we all make a small change, and over time, we'll all get there at the same time, eventually.
That's exactly.
I wanted to ask you, Save the Med. Now, I met Brad Robinson many years ago, and that was, I think, he was just starting Association on Dine at the time, and he was, starting to champion the cause of what was going on in the Mediterranean. Save the Med now, of course, they changed their name, and they're much more focused just on the Mediterranean. You are a marine biologist with Save the Med. Can you tell me a little bit about the whole what's going on right now? Because I'm really interested in the difference in the Mediterranean in the past, say 5 years.
So Association, the Ondine Association was was a grassroots movement. With the transition to a foundation, it still remains a grassroots movement. So we still rely heavily upon the community, and that's the people that we rally from, and that's the people we get the energy from. But of course it has grown and we've developed, and while Ondine still had a little bit of sort of science or research component to its projects, it is certainly a lot more important right now in Save the Med. And aside of all our plastic reduction initiatives that we have, not only with the schools, like the schools programs, or our weekend cleanups to activate the whole community, or the work that Balear Sense Plastic does with businesses trying to evaluate and reduce their plastic footprint, we also have an important research component that is promoting and evaluating the suitability of new areas for the establishment of marine protected areas, and how we can have the community involved in the process of creating these new marine protected area. Traditionally, marine protected areas have always been confronted by local communities, generally, especially fishermen or people whose livelihoods depended on the sea. And we're trying to change that around. We're trying to show the benefits that these marine protected areas have. And the Mediterranean is a landlocked sea that has been under the pressure of humans since the dawn of time, literally. Mm-hmm. So we actually don't know what the baseline was, but we do know that as recent as 100 years ago, the Mediterranean was still teeming with life. And the few efforts that have been done have actually resulted in a positive comeback from the Mediterranean. So there's a lot of hope. We just need to give it a little bit of space to breathe, and slowly but surely the Mediterranean will recover a lot of what we have taken from in these past decades.
So, I mean, the point being is that we don't actually have to stop, for example, yachting or boating or fishing. What we have to do is be aware of the areas that we need to steer clear of in order to make sure that the life that was there before is able to sort of recoup and come back.
That's right. I think it's all about I guess the technical term will be carrying capacity, but you can use the metaphor of the tree with the hanging money, dollars. If you can take money, you can take dollars from it, but you need to allow for the money to grow again. Otherwise, that tree is going to die. It's the same thing. You need to give the Mediterranean space to thrive and live, and then you can, of course, use for your own purpose, for economic growth, for prosperity, for enjoyment, for recreational activities, everything that the sea offers us. Like, for example, in the yachting industry, relevant to the yachting industry right now is the anchorage in seagrass beds.
Yeah.
And there's been a little bit of debate with that, with a bit of confrontation, and it seems that now there is a lot of understanding. So the tide has turned in that regards. But to me, it seems obvious that the Balearic Islands depends on their crystal clear waters for the boating industry to be the way it is. If the seagrass goes, the crystal clear waters go, the boaters were going to go somewhere else. So in order to have a thriving boating industry, you need to have a thriving seagrass ecosystem.
Well, it's like anything, you have to look after nature in order to, nature is what made it appealing in the first place. And if you don't look after what made it appealing in the first place and that disappears, then, everyone's going to go away and never come back anyway. So, and it doesn't impact. I mean, yes, sure, there's certain bays that you aren't able to go into, but, can you not get out of your yacht and swim?
Well, I mean, I don't think that the solutions are never easy and are never straightforward. But what we need is a little bit of understanding, and maybe at the beginning it's in spite of, and there needs to be a little bit of effort. But once the results are clear and are there, everybody will just come on board.
Well, tell me a little bit about the education that Save the Med is doing. They are going into schools across the island and talking to the youngsters. Are they also doing educating for the older crowd as well?
Yes, most of our educational initiatives are with young students, but our public beach cleans are a classic example of education for adults, because it's a community activity that everyone's invited, and yet families come with their kids, but the parents come as well. There's a lot of young crowd that are already, young adults that maybe don't have kids, but they like the idea, and they always get. It's not just cleaning the beach that's important. We do we give out a lot of information. We actually do a citizen science activity. They help us out collecting the data. So they actually, in the process of collecting the data, they actually start thinking and reflecting about a lot of things. It's not just, I need to go and clean the beach. And they realize that, cleaning the beach is not the solution to the problem, that we need to turn the tap off on land. So we organize events like this one and try to bring in a lot more of a crowd and make it a bit more important. So yes, we try to reach every sort of division of society in that regard.
Well, what is the next plan for Save the Med? I mean, are you continuing, or do you have sort of an idea that you're going to be doing something bigger or better, or what's next for Save the Med?
Well, the plans constantly evolve. What's clear is that we maintain this line of projects that deal with plastic reduction, because I insist the solution is not going to the beach and cleaning it. The solution is stopping the production, and to stop the production, consumer can stop the consumption, and then there will be no production because there will be no market for it. It's as simple as that. We still focus on our scientific work, our marine protected area. We're jumping into regenerative practices, so we don't know when it will kick off, but a lot of the work with seagrasses will be on our portfolio as well. And then, of course, with a change of name comes a little bit of an expansion. So we'll try to reach out to other places that are outside of the Balearics, and we're already starting with that, and we want to do it in a fairly organic way. We want to reach out to other NGOs that are already working on the ground and explore what are their needs, and do a sort of exchange of know-how kind of thing.
Well, and it's interesting, you mentioned single use anything, and in today's day and age, everything is single use or has been for a long time. And I think that is contributing to a lot of what ends up in our landfills, ends up in our waterways as a result of ending up in our landfills. And that includes things such as, even clothing for that matter. We have an entire generation of people that are, they have to be number one in fashion. This new outfit comes out, they've got to go out and buy it, or these new shoes, they've got to go out and buy it, and they toss something. That's a huge issue.
Yeah, well, I was gonna make a funny comment. Even relationships are single use.
Yes.
So, or furniture like IKEA and things like that. Yes, it at the same time, it's a very movable society. So we're jumping from city to city, from country to country, and everywhere you go, you need to start anew. So you need to buy new things, and it's great that you can have it at an affordable price. But yes, I agree that there is people that have immense cupboards filled with things that, if they want to keep buying things, listen, maybe that's okay, but they could give them out to someone that they needed, or something. That is also changing. There are a lot of, maybe not a lot, but a few companies that are actually starting to change that a little bit, and are saying, okay, bring me your piece of garment and I will repair it for you. And because they're understanding that, especially outdoor companies that work with technical clothing, and so they understand that they need to protect and preserve the environment in which their customers are going to use their clothing. So there's a lot of, so it's also changing that way. So there is also, the fashion industry is very highly contaminating and polluting, and from within, some initiatives are sprouting out. But yes, I don't know, as a big summary, the issue of single use is one of the biggest threats right now, because it's just promotion of consumption, and it's putting a strain on the world's resources.
Well, and I think it's the same with food as well. We are seeing now, just recently, I think through social media over the past year, I have seen more and more restaurants and more supermarkets that are sort of doing that push that, 5 years ago, if a banana was looking a little bit funny or an apple had a little, bruise on it, it was thrown out. Now, it's perfectly edible, just because it doesn't look perfect. I saw a news story just the other day out of Abu Dhabi, I think it was, that they are taking some, beautiful 5-star resorts that are taking their food and they're grinding it down to feed to animals. And as well, other countries that are taking the food that's left over and giving it to homeless. Whereas, 5 years ago, I was seeing social media stories of, for example, Walmart in the United States. There was 10 big bins in behind Walmart where they had dumped all their food that wasn't necessarily off, but was just no longer worth the money they thought it was. So even food is an issue.
Yes, and that's also, depending on what piece of news you get, you might be highly pessimistic or highly optimistic. Here in Spain, big supermarkets used to even dump bleach on the unwanted food, because otherwise homeless would go and collect it. And now that has changed after people have said, like, this is not good. And now we're also on the other side. Hotels, there's pilot projects here in hotels in Mallorca, and all the food waste is going to be in-house composted and used in their gardens or in their hotel chain to try and not generate that much waste. So yes, I think things are slowly, but they are moving sometimes in the right direction. But yes, any parcel of life that involves consumption, you're going to find a non-proper use of the resources, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, myself, I'm really excited to see that straight across the world, we are getting people talking and people are making those small changes. And that's great because, a few years back, that wasn't in existence. People didn't talk about it. And I think when you open up dialogue, it's like anything. The more that you open up dialogue and the more people start talking about it, the more people will go to their quiet space and think about what difference they can make. And if you give them small suggestions, they might take those. They're not going to shout it from the rooftops, but they're going to take those and implement those into their daily life. And I think it's great to have these kind of conversations.
I think so too. Sometimes the feeling of loneliness sets you back. So you might have this idea, but you see no one around doing it, and seeing and watching that someone, even if it's in the other corner of the world, is doing it, might give you that little bit of oomph for you to start it. So events like this, organized by Save the Med and Viveco, to demonstrate that there are other ways to do things. You might not become like Bea Johnson and produce 1 jar of waste a year, but you might start taking small steps, and then the next time you're walking around, you don't buy a plastic water bottle and you carry your reusable one, or things like that.
Well, and that's the great thing, is that you don't have to take all of their suggestions, but even if you take one of her suggestions and make that change in your life, you are doing your part, slowly, but step by step. So that is something to celebrate, I think.
That's correct. That's right.
So once again, this is called Reduce Your Waste, this event that you guys are hosting with Viveco, Save the Med and Viveco, and it's with Bea Johnson, November 20th at 1900 hours. And do they have to contact you guys to book a space, or how does that work?
I think you can buy the tickets online and,
okay.
Through truiteatre.es.
Okay.
And just purchase them online. Yes.
Well, we'll provide a link for sure when we air this interview, and we'll make sure that on all our social media sites, we provide that link for people if they're interested in doing their part and learning a bit more about what they can do for the community. Because even if people can't go, the fact is, maybe if their friend goes or if their family member goes, that they can come back and impart some of that knowledge that they gained.
Exactly. Knowledge can be shared very easily.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your time. I know you guys are busy over there saving the med.
That's right.
And I really wish you the best of luck with this. I'd like to invite you back at any time you folks want, or have anything that you think the community should be aware of, the yachting community or the community at whole. We would love to host you again, and you can let us know how we can do our part for the environment.
Excellent. We would love to be again on the show. And anytime we can agree on that. No problem.
Excellent. Thank you again for your time. And thank you to those out there watching and listening. This has been Coffee and Conversation with Ria on Yachting International Radio.